The Road to Laughtale Volume 2 has just released, and with it we have some brand new information about graded swords, small refreshers on the plot here and there, cool concept designs, and potentially a hint at what might have happened during God's Valley. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into it. We're going to start from the beginning and then break it down page by page. So to kick things off, the very first page says that Kaido and Big Mom have been defeated. 2 emperors have fallen. But the real question that remains is, how will this affect the rest of the world? Because for the past couple of chapters and the past 2 volumes of The Road to Laughtale, Oda has heavily hinted that the events outside the world are so unstable that we're just going to be shocked once we leave this island. And, after this page, the very top says, the time has come for a great cleansing, and we see some very ominous shots of the Gorosei, and the great cleansing has been hinted at beforehand, and now I'm just curious, how is the great cleansing taking place? Who is executing it, and how successful are they? Because from what we've heard from Akainu and Green Bull, it doesn't really seem like everything is necessarily going their way. They seem like they're in a power struggle with the pirates around the world, and potentially countries as well. So it doesn't really seem like a great cleansing, it more seems like a great power struggle. The top panel goes on and says, the world's equilibrium cannot be maintained forever. A broken balance, the world in chaos. And the funny thing about this panel here is the fact that the broken balance that they're talking about, that broken equilibrium, has to deal with the fact that they got rid of the 7 warlord system, because the 7 warlords, the Yonkos, and the admirals held that trinity balance around the world, but they got rid of one of them during the Reverie, and then here we are just a week or 2 later, and then boom, Kaido and Big Mom have also been defeated, thus tipping the scales oh so more in the government's favor. And I say the government's favor because they must be somewhat confident in their abilities if they were so easily and readily able to get rid of the 7 warlords. So what this scale would look like outside of Wano is beyond me. So the next thing we get when we scroll further down are little refreshers on what is going on around the world. Little tidbits of Oda saying, hey, don't forget this happened, don't forget this happened, and stay hyped for them as well. The first one is Sabo's update. We know his whole situation. We know that something bad must have happened to him. We see characters crying. We see characters in shock. And the last thing we've heard from him is that he infiltrated the Reverie, trying to save Kuma, and that is where he took on Fujitora and Green Bull. But here's Green Bull in Wano Kuni. So what became of our man Sabo? The second big scoop that came out of it is simply the fact that something big happened at Alabasta. We don't know what took place, but we just know something happened between Vivi, between Sabo, and all during the time and place of the Reverie. Big scoop number 3 is what I mentioned earlier, and that is the fact that the 7 warlord system has been abolished, and the Marines are now going after the 7 warlords, which, to be fair, is kind of ridiculous. I can't imagine random Marine number 1 and 2 going after Dracula Mihawk and actually winning. Boa Hancock I would put in the same boat as well. She has Conqueror's Haki. She just seems way too strong to be taken down by Marine fodder. Send an Admiral her way, and we're talking about a different story. Send Kobe her way, and I'm kind of questioning what's going to happen. But to be fair, I think the warlords are going to be fine and safe once we leave. Heck, Buggy became a freaking Yonko by the time this got abolished. So the sky's the limit for the rest of the warlords here. Real quick though, I do want to dial it back and just discuss what I think happened at the Reverie, because we do know that somebody was murdered and somebody was almost murdered at the Reverie, and that Sabo has some sort of mystique around him. Something bad happened with Sabo. So here's my guess and my take on the situation. The person that got killed at the Reverie was none other than King Cobra. And who did the killing? Well, it was Sabo. Sabo killed King Cobra and attempted to murder Princess Vivi. That is what the headlines are going to be running. We all know it's not true, and with that being the case, it would fulfill the reasonings as to why Dragon is shocked, why Koala cannot believe it, and why Dadan is crying. So with Dragon being shocked and Koala being shocked, if Sabo was dead, I feel like they would have a somewhat different reaction. Dot on the other hand is crying. So why is that the case? Well, Ace was also captured by the world government, only later to be executed and killed at Marineford. So she can't help but cry at this situation. And also, she realized that he's alive again and all that stuff. But yes, there is a lot going on here, and I do not think he is the one who actually attempted to murder Princess Vivi or even kill King Cobra, but that is what the world government is running with. So we ended up getting some insights as to who Blackbeard's Titanic Commanders are and what their positions are as well. So on the first ship, we have the helmsman champion Jesus Burgess. Second captain ship is going to be Shiryu of the Rain. Third being Supersonic Van Augur. Fourth being the corrupt king Avalo Pizarro. Fifth ship being the demonic sheriff Lafitte. And the sixth ship captain is Maiden Hunter Katerina Devon. Seventh ship captain being the colossal battleship San Juan Wolf. The eighth being heavy drinker Vasco Shot. And the ninth being Grim Reaper Doc Q. But the most important insight and information with the release of these Titanic Commanders is that there is a 10th ship captain that we have not met before. And the fact that Oda put this, blackened image over that 10th Titanic captain has to mean that it is someone who is going to be very shocking. Because by this point of the One Piece, I feel like it's kind of pointless to add more characters into the mix that we haven't met before. I feel like Oda is going for the shock value, and that's why he blacked out this image. So I'm really curious to see who it is, and to see if it actually is someone we have not met before. Also, if you go down the side and you read how Oda describes the Blackbeard pirates, you can almost assume that all of these dudes here are going to have a massive boost by the time the Straw Hats get to them. And the reason I say this is because Oda lists these guys as people who have fighting capabilities that are enhanced by stolen devil fruits. But with that being the case, the only person we have met so far from the Blackbeard pirates that has utilized a stolen devil fruit was Shiryu of the Rain, having Abasalam's clear fruit. But by the time we meet them, what fruits will he have at that point? Are they going to have more than one fruit like Blackbeard? Or will they simply just have crazy fruits we have seen before, or brand new ones that they pillaged from other poor pirates? Alright, so the next Yonko on the list is Akagami no Shanks, and I really love what Oda decided to put emphasis on underneath his picture. First up, it says a dormant lion makes quiet moves to maintain the world balance. Ever since we first met Shanks, he seemed very neutral. He wasn't a pirate gunning for the One Piece. He wasn't trying to defeat the world government. He's simply been existing in the world. He's kind of like a different version of Mihawk per se. But with that being said, what ties does he have with the Celestial Dragon? How can he accept his audience so casually? And what pirate was he talking about at the Reverie? But there is one panel in particular that I thought was very fascinating that Oda would bring up in the Road to Laughtale here. And that is the cover page story where Shanks actually goes to a wedding. It seemed kind of like a throwaway panel. Maybe it was his wedding, maybe it was someone else's or a friend's. But now with Film Red coming out in a couple of weeks, maybe it has to do with Uta, and maybe that Uta really is his biological daughter. Who really knows? But I thought it was fascinating that Oda did want to draw emphasis towards that wedding picture. Below all this, we do have a small panel further reinforcing the fact that Shanks and Blackbeard are tied together, and I'm really curious to see if we will get a flashback as to how Shanks got that original scar, or if we'll just straight up get a rematch in the future of One Piece, which I would love to see. And I love the panel that Oda chose to show this as well. We have Shanks and Buggy versus a young Blackbeard. This was back in the Odin flashback, and when I see this, I can't help but hope we get a faded rematch with adult Shanks, adult Buggy versus adult Blackbeard, especially now that all of these men are Yonko. So below this, the next page, we have the One Piece data on sword grades, and Oda comes out and he states which swords are which grades, which is quite insightful. And it's not anything that's particularly new information, because a lot of people have speculated, and Oda has revealed in SBS's what grades are which. We have Roger with his famed sword Ace actually being one of the 12 supreme great swords, and we also have Edward Newgate Whitebeard with his Murokuma Giri. And it's like, boy, these guys had one of the 12 supreme swords in the entire verse. And now I'm just curious, like, wait, will someone ever pick up the mantle and grab their swords? Because usually you have someone passing it down or someone goes grave robbing, but who would dare steal Roger or Whitebeard's sword? I can't imagine it, man. Who would be fit to pick up that weapon? Next up, we have Mihawk, which, you know, obviously was the first one we saw in the entire series. Next up, we have Kitetsu the First, and I'm like, boy, Zoro needs to hop up on this level, especially if he wants to beat Mihawk at some point. So I'm like, he has Kitetsu the Second. It only would make sense if he gets Kitetsu the First. And I love the fact that Oda says that the wielder of Kitetsu the First is currently unknown. So whether it's just lying around in Wano, or maybe one of Zoro's next opponents will have that sword, is kind of up in the air for speculation. Next up are the 21 excellent graded swords, but since we already know about all of those, we're gonna skip right past that and go straight to the unknown and the ungraded swords, because that is where the hype lies. So first up, we have Trafalgar Law having a sword by the name of Kikoku, and it's known to be a cursed sword as well. So with that one little tidbit of information, I want to automatically put his sword at an excellent graded sword, because based off of all of the feats we've seen and based off of the fact that it is cursed, I just want to throw it up there. Next up, we have Kaido's Kanabo, which is also an ungraded sword as well. And it's funny that they call them ungraded swords, because this is kind of like weapons as a whole, especially if you include Kaido's Kanabo in this list. But yes, it is an incredibly hard club, able to withstand the awesome might of being coated with Kaido's Conqueror's Haki. And I love that they include that, like that's a feat for the swords. Like not just any sword can be coated in Conqueror's Haki and withstand it. We also have the name of it as well, which I would just absolutely butcher. I think it's called the Hasaikai, but you know, that's kind of beyond me. Next up, we have the unknown graded swords as well, and the most notable one on this list is going to be Shanks with his Griffin, because if Kaido's Kanabo being coated in Conqueror's Haki is a huge feat for a sword, then I also want to make note that Shanks can probably do the same with his Griffin. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shanks' sword ended up being one of the 12 Supreme Blades. Another sword that they made note of was Oto and Kogarashi, currently being held by Shiki the Golden Lion. And I'm gonna throw this back real quick, but in Volume 1 of The Road to Laughtale, Oda also made a couple of remarks about the Golden Lion Shiki. And not to mention, he was in the Rocks flashback and etc. So I'm just curious, is Oda setting up Shiki's return in the anime? And if he does it, will he be retconned from his movie Strong World? Because let's be real here, with how much hype Shiki has gotten in the past couple of chapters, in the past couple of SBSs, he has to be stronger than Gear 3rd Thor Axe by Luffy. Like he has to be pretty dang powerful. He does not deserve to be beaten by pre-timeskip Luffy just like that. Next up, we have Charlotte Katakuri's with his mole, and that was always a cool weapon, and it would be nice to see if it was one of the 21 excellent graded swords. Maybe not, you know, on the level with the 12 Supreme Iwazumono blades, but I would like to see Katakuri's mole being up there on that tier list though. And now, onto the concept art, which this time around is so freaking cool, because we actually see designs that Oda did not end up using, and we also learn of devil fruits that some characters might have had if Oda went a different way. So first up, we have Kaido, the King of Beasts, and we learn that his hybrid form originally had a really long neck and dropped the Kanabo. Yes, instead of using his iconic club, he would instead use his dragon talons to fight Luffy off, which I'm really glad Oda went the direction he did. I love the fact that Kaido kept his club throughout all of the fight, and the reason why is because you see that growth from Luffy during this fight as well. In the very beginning of Wano, that club is what one-shotted him, and now at the very end of the fight, Luffy's taking blows from it, from an enhanced version of it, left and right. And also, the fact that Kaido is constantly using his Kanabo is almost a callback and a huge, herring to the fact that he is an Oni, that he is a different race other than human, because Onis typically in mythology always have an iron club. So next up we have the All-Stars, who originally were going to be called the Face Cards, which I think is a really goofy name. So I am glad that Oda did not go with that one. So yes, the All-Stars were born, the Face Cards were killed off. Next up, we do have some light on the Flying Six, and there's some pretty crazy ones here. So first up, it turns out that Black Maria, her original devil fruit was not a spider, but instead a freaking Stegosaurus. I mean, I could see Robin beating a Stegosaurus, but it wouldn't look as cool as Robin stepping on a Stegosaurus as it was a giant spider woman. Next up, we have page 1, and we actually get to see what he looks like underneath the mask. And it's not anything surprising, he's just a regular human being. It isn't like a giant surprise when we saw Katakuri with the stitched up mouth and the pelican eel face. No, page 1 is just a regular dude. Next up, we do have Ulti, who is kind of on the opposite spectrum, where I'm assuming she's human, but she also has a really elongated tongue. Don't really know the design choice behind that, but yes, Ulti has a really big tongue, and originally, her devil fruit was not that of an ancient Zoan dinosaur, but instead was supposed to be a yokai called a Jirai, which is essentially a giant scarecrow, which I'm glad Oda didn't go that route, simply because that would be too similar to Hawkins, especially if we had to fight him during this arc as well. But I'm really curious to see how that would go if Oda did go that route and give Ulti a different devil fruit. Would she still be known for her headbutts, or would she have an entirely different fighting moveset altogether? Next up, we have Who's Who, which was originally supposed to be a two-sword style user. What a giant switch up from two-sword style user to a guy wielding a little knife, like, episode 5 Mihawk. I think that's a pretty crazy switch up. And also, how would he fight with the two swords when he's in his Sabretooth form as well? And now the last of the Tobi Roppo to make note of is going to be Sasaki, who originally was going to have a very different name, and that name is Faro. And he was also supposed to be a somewhat younger character as well, which, would kind of fit in with the standard anime trope of, oh, you have a group of bad guys, you have a really young kid, you have a girl, you have an old man, and etc. It looks like Oda did not want to go that route and instead made Sasaki the man he is today. Last up, we have Big Mom's concept art for Wano, and there's nothing crazy here, but Oda does throw in something insane. So right beside Big Mom's concept art, it says, she has deep ties to Kaido. Kaido and Big Mom were both members of the Rocks Pirates. What happened to them on the day that their old crew collapsed? Perhaps there's a hint in the concept art. And I'm telling you, man, I have been looking through this concept art, and I have no clue what this hint is. There's a hint here somewhere about God's Valley that I just cannot find out about. So you guys, make sure to take a look at this concept art. Make sure you take a look at volume 2 of The Road to Laughtale, and let me know what you find and what you think of this volume. But with that being said, that is all I have to share with you guys today. I just wanted to talk about One Piece and make a really quick video. It has been quite a minute since I have been here, and if you showed up, if you watched to this point, please consider dropping a like and comment down below. It would really mean a lot. And obviously sub if you haven't. Thank you guys oh so much for watching up until this point if you have. It just, I don't know, it's crazy to me that you guys would like take the time out of your day and sit here and listen or watch this video, and I just really can't thank you guys enough. And it is a big drought week upon us, with One Piece being on break left and right, but I will be making some Reddit discussion videos sooner rather than later. I have a couple lined up in the pipeline, and this video was simply the first to come. So with that being said, like I said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.